Homage to fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to lineage benevolent masters. The Dharma, profound, is rarely encountered even in a million eons. Now we are able to hear, study and follow it. May we fully realize Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, generate supreme bodhicitta. Next, we will continue studying the guidance on the preliminary practices. We are currently discussing the impermanence of life. The profound impermanence of all life is indeed a very deep and significant pith instruction. This particular kind of essential pith instruction is something that we truly need to repeatedly and diligently familiarize ourselves with in our daily lives. Of course, it is certainly not an easy task for this profound realization to spontaneously arise within our own minds. Such a deep understanding can only truly arise after a considerably long and dedicated period of consistent practice. So everyone here, do not relax your efforts and do not underestimate it. Do not think that this is just a preliminary practice or merely a teaching on impermanence. I've heard these teachings a long time ago. This is very simple. You absolutely must not think this way. If you think like this, it shows that you have not delved deeply into this mind training practice. Truly accomplished masters and great teachers always feel that their contemplation on impermanence is not sufficient. They always tend to think in this particular manner. Therefore, in our comprehensive daily practice and dedicated study, it is crucial to consider various aspects and implications of this perspective. We should hold ourselves to strict standards. If we do not, these states of realization in practice will not arise casually or easily. So this time we are also asking everyone to earnestly practice contemplating the impermanence of life. During the actual practice, repeatedly observe and reflect. After observing, a sense of urgency will definitely arise in your heart. Indeed, all phenomena are impermanent. If you don't practice now, there will be no time left. It will be too late. If you possess this kind of profound understanding or unwavering confidence, it will undoubtedly be much easier to succeed in your practical endeavors. Otherwise, like most people in the world today, even though they know that one day they will die, they always feel that it's impossible for death to come in the next few days. They keep postponing their practice, delaying it indefinitely into the future. In the end, they accomplish nothing. This particular phenomenon is also very commonly observed within our dedicated community of practitioners. Therefore, after diligently obtaining such truly precious and invaluable instructions, I sincerely hope that everyone will practice with utmost diligence and profound sincerity. I've noticed that many Dharma friends are very enthusiastic. Especially when it comes to the common preliminary practices, many have put in real effort. I truly feel very satisfied in my heart. Although our progress in this teaching has been relatively slow, perhaps no other teacher has ever spent such an extensive amount of time on the preliminary practices before. But I genuinely think that if I meticulously explain these important things to everyone in comprehensive detail, and each person spends a lot of time on these mind training methods, then with a solid foundation in the preliminary practices, it will be much easier to practice any Dharma method. So this time, after careful consideration, I deliberately chose to explain things more extensively for everyone. And we absolutely shouldn't think to ourselves, oh, this particular task is taking an exceptionally long time. Should we perhaps hurry up and finish it? In actual fact, we don't really have anything else of significant importance to do at this moment. Of course, if we wanted to finish as quickly as possible, that's also possible. I could just set aside 2 or 3 days to recite the transmission for everyone, and then say, oh, we've finished teaching the words of my perfect teacher. It could be done that way. But in reality, if we don't practice step by step, we only gain the merit of receiving the transmission. We won't obtain any real benefit. So during this process of giving the transmission, I believe some people will definitely gain a lot. Some people are quite diligent at the beginning, but gradually relax and end up with a strong start and a weak finish. In the end, they may not gain much benefit either. This all depends on each person's karmic connection, faith, and diligence. It truly has a close connection. So, I sincerely hope that all the esteemed Dharma friends who are present here today will embark upon and continue their spiritual journey with unwavering, long-term perseverance, demonstrating profound diligence in their practice and maintaining deep respect for the teachings and for one another. Next, I will continue to talk about the following point: Nowadays, it is a common concern among some heads of households that if an unforeseen event or unfortunate circumstance were to befall them, their beloved family members might tragically face the dire consequences of starvation or even freeze to death, leaving them in a truly vulnerable and desperate situation. This is what they all believe. Or they might be gravely harmed by their numerous enemies, or tragically drowned in a devastating flood, because everything they currently possess and hold dear now, whether it's their accumulated wealth, their profound happiness, and so on, all of it, everything, is obtained because of me. So I absolutely cannot be absent. Many people think this way, including some heads of households or even rulers of a country, who believe that I must not collapse, I must remain in this world for a long time. Otherwise, if something truly significant happens to me, then everyone in the family, all of them, would be deeply affected. Or, for example, the esteemed abbot of a monastery, they genuinely think to themselves, I absolutely cannot be absent from my duties. If I'm not here, what will these disciples do? Many people might think this way, and others will say the same thing. They'll say, you absolutely must not have anything happen to you, otherwise what will we do? But in reality, this is truly just a kind of abstract imagination that people have conceived. Next, it explicitly states, but after these individuals pass away and their lives come to an end, their relatives will cremate their bodies, or throw them into the water, or leave them in a charnel ground. After that, they feel at ease and justified. Many people are like this, even they themselves believe it. They think, if I'm not here, maybe everything will collapse, or there will be huge trouble. But in the end, no matter who you are, once you die, there are all sorts of ways your body might be dealt with. After your body has been taken care of, most people, maybe if you were a good person while alive, they might feel sad, grieve, or be in pain. But once your body has been dealt with, everyone feels at ease, they're happy and content, and that's it. The person is already dead. The one who was meant to die has died. After death, as long as the body is taken care of, that's enough. In this world, that's truly how it is in many cases. Some parents, before they pass away, feel that they are indispensable. But after they die, life goes on as usual for everyone else. So while we're alive, we shouldn't live just for the sake of saving face for others. And if we give up and abandon all our spiritual practices for this, that's truly unreasonable. Many people say, I can't become a monk. If I do, what will happen to my family? Or I can't study Buddhism. If I do, then all the important matters at home will fall on me alone to handle. So what should I do? Many people have these personal worries. They think of themselves as the head of the family, someone who can't be absent. But in reality, even without you, things will go on as usual. Sooner or later, you will have to leave. It's impossible to stay with them forever. That's just not how it works. So before a person dies, they should choose the best path for themselves and cannot give up all of their spiritual practice for the sake of these people. When a person dies, they are left all alone, drifting helplessly and in solitude through the bardo. At that time, the only thing you can rely on is the true Dharma. When a person truly leaves, it's just as we mentioned before. It's like pulling a hair out of butter. No one who has supported or helped you can go with you. You will inevitably be drifting alone in the bardo. So sometimes I wonder if any of you here have thought about this. Death is not something far away. It is actually waiting right in front of us. In front of each person, the messengers of death are waiting. When death arrives, everything in this world, the world of objects and the world of sentient beings, everything, absolutely everything, must be left behind. Only your own karma follows you as your soul drifts through the cycle of rebirth. This is a truly terrifying thing and also a very significant matter. Nowadays, many people are completely unwilling to even mention death. They don't even dare to bring it up. But in reality, when you truly face death, aside from the Dharma, at that moment, there truly is nothing you can rely on. The only thing that follows us is the elements of scriptures mentioned earlier in the sutras. Karma, good karma or bad karma, it follows us through lifetime after lifetime. Parents, siblings, spouses, servants, wealth, and all our loved ones. None of them can truly follow us after death. Only our accumulated karma faithfully follows behind us. It should be mentioned in the Deshi Chingwen Jing. When we die, neither parents nor siblings can go with us. Wives, children, all servants, property and loved ones, none of them, nothing at all, can go with you. The only thing that follows you is the good karma you created while alive. Even if you just recite the Avalokiteshvara mantra once, the numerous good deeds and virtuous acts that you consistently perform in your daily life are truly inexhaustible and boundless. They follow your soul just like your body and its shadow. At that moment, even your own body, which you cherished so much, along with your clothes and your house, all must be left behind. That's why sometimes when we visit the home of someone who died without practicing, we immediately realize how pitiful so many people in this world truly are. They don't even acknowledge the existence of future lives, let alone create good karma. Even if they do a little good, it's only for some benefit in this life. Most have never even considered the next life. This isn't just true for some lay people in the world, even some Dharma teachers are like this. They don't value the next life and only promote things in this life, such as the simple idea that good deeds bring good results and bad deeds bring bad results. Beyond that, it seems they never really consider in their words or actions what will happen to them in the next life. Because our future lives are truly a very long matter. A single day is short, but a human life is still quite long. In the same way, a human lifetime is still very brief. The endless cycle of birth and death is truly extremely long. So we have no choice but to consider that all phenomena are impermanent. Therefore, from now on, we must wholeheartedly and diligently practice the authentic Dharma. Diligently practicing the authentic Dharma is extremely important for us. This requires us to be single-minded and to make a persistent, earnest effort. It's not about putting on some kind of superficial show or reporting some numbers to deceive certain responsible people. There's really no need for that. Nowadays, some people study Buddhism just to get some materials or gain a bit of reputation, but in reality, they don't practice at all, and they themselves should be very clear about this. So sometimes it's not hard to see the state of our own mind stream when we observe ourselves. It's understandable if others don't know you. But whether you know yourself or not, you should be perfectly clear in your own heart. From the time I took refuge until now, how have I arranged my daily schedule? How much time have I actually spent contemplating impermanence in my heart? Everyone should examine this in detail. The great masters and truly genuine Dharma friends of the past, how did these practitioners actually practice? And it's not that I don't have time every day. Many people just use no time as an excuse. In the time I truly have, how many times have I reflected on the teachings about death? How have I contemplated and practiced the teachings on impermanence in my heart? In this regard, we should truly and deeply examine ourselves, looking inward with sincerity. We need to reflect on the aforementioned principles again and again, allowing their wisdom to fully permeate our understanding. Now the second crucial point. All gatherings, no matter how significant or joyful, must eventually and inevitably disperse, coming to their natural conclusion. Likewise, everything that is accumulated will ultimately come apart. This is a law of nature. Even a king who rules over the entire southern continent may one day fall to the status of a beggar. Even kings or ministers who rule over the entire southern continent, in the end, there are cases where they became beggars and died of starvation. Some historical records mention Emperor Wu of Liang, who, during his reign, possessed power, wealth, and influence, and in every respect was an object of envy for others. But in the end, he was tragically captured by the formidable Ho Jing, and it is widely said that he subsequently met a most unfortunate demise, perishing from severe starvation within the confines of the Taichung area. So in this vast and complex world, many high-ranking officials and influential leaders, despite their power and status, can still face such dire and unexpected fates, end up as beggars, and eventually die of starvation. Such cases are very common. Many people enjoy abundance and prosperity in the first half of their lives, but in the latter half, they run out of resources and die of hunger. Some people owned hundreds of yaks just last year, but in the end, they were struck by snow disasters or other calamities. But this year, they have fallen into utter poverty and become beggars. This is especially true in places like Tibet, where people greatly admire and praise the exceptionally wealthy individuals who proudly own hundreds of magnificent yaks, a true symbol of their considerable prosperity and esteemed status. In the past, the author often used this analogy to illustrate the point. Perhaps in many cities in the Han regions, people may not really grasp what it means to own hundreds of yaks. But in reality, the same thing happens in the Han regions nowadays. Many individuals are especially envious of successful entrepreneurs and prominent big business owners. But in the end, after a financial storm or financial crisis, or after various disasters occur, they can suddenly fall from grace. Many end up jumping off buildings to commit suicide, these kinds of situations we often hear about. So there really isn't anything reliable. Someone who was a wealthy tycoon with a prominent status and immense wealth yesterday could also be ruined by enemies and left with nothing, becoming a beggar today, and so on. Such situations do exist. In the past, those individuals who were truly and genuinely wealthy, perhaps because of some incredibly unwise and ill-advised actions, or after certain significant and unfortunate incidents occurred, immediately became beggars. This kind of phenomenon does exist. Back in the ancient and illustrious Western Jin dynasty, there was a truly remarkable and exceptionally wealthy man named Shi Chong, who possessed immense riches and was considered one of the most prominent and affluent individuals, indeed, one of the top 10 richest people in all of China. Later, when the ambitious Prince Zhaolun tragically killed him, he then said, "Yusete, you are also killing me for my property." At that time, Prince Zhaolun replied, "If you know that I am killing you for property, then why didn't you dispose of your property earlier?" At that time he said, "Now I understand, but it's already too late. There's no time." Indeed, throughout history, many people ended up with truly tragic fates, and in many unfortunate cases, it was profoundly related to their immense wealth, significant power, and elevated status. In the end, often within a single dramatic day, or within a very short period of time, everything was destroyed, and they were left with nothing. Back in the Qing dynasty, there was a red-topped merchant. He was also an individual who was extremely wealthy and prosperous within his specific region. But later, during the process of Li Hongzhang's warfare against him, within just one day's time, he completely destroyed all of his possessions and everything he had accumulated. So sometimes we can understand the rise and fall, success and failure, gains and losses of the world through various situations, and truly see that all phenomena are impermanent. This principle is not like the practice of the generation and completion stages, where you have to suffering of suffering to visualize the deity's appearance and form. There isn't that kind of difficulty here. We should be able to understand many things happening before our eyes, including sometimes when we read the news or newspapers, we can fully comprehend. Sometimes when I'm in the city or at the hospital, I often pick up a newspaper. Some doctors say to me, "Why do you monastics care about national affairs every day?" To be honest, it's not really like the various worldly concerns, just like the celebrities and pop stars that people are especially fond of nowadays, the ones they praise and admire. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we really don't like them that much. But if I open a newspaper, every day it's about all kinds of disasters happening in the world, the deaths of many people, and how many corrupt officials are being arrested and sentenced. Through these situations, we gain a profound understanding of the impermanence of things. Although on the surface it's just a newspaper, and maybe it contains stories about worldly pleasures like eating, drinking, and entertainment. But when an ordinary monastic reads it, they find it boring, meaningless, and truly pitiful, so much of it. Whether it's compassion or renunciation, it really does help and benefit us. Otherwise, I truly wouldn't be able to spend my entire day just leisurely reading a newspaper. We genuinely don't need to go to our demanding jobs, nor do we ever need to attend various important national meetings. Some of these things may seem unnecessary for us, but actually sometimes it's necessary to understand the rise and fall of the world and the various impermanent phenomena in the world. This understanding is also a form of practice. Countless facts that we have witnessed with our own eyes are enough to prove this. We cannot possess material wealth and fleeting enjoyment forever, so it is essential that we cultivate generosity and willingly give to others. Therefore, whether it is our accumulated wealth, our social standing, or our temporary status in life, it is important to remember that absolutely nothing is truly permanent and everlasting. Whenever we look at any status or wealth, we see that it's just like a bubble or like the white clouds in autumn, just like dewdrops in summer. They disappear in an instant. Nothing is truly everlasting. But those individuals who do not understand the profound concept of impermanence, who have never diligently studied the principles of Buddhism, first desperately pursue these things. And once they have successfully acquired them, they then rack their brains, tirelessly trying to protect them, seemingly forever and ever. They put all their effort into trying to keep them, but it's impossible. Look at the white clouds in autumn. No matter who you are, if you try to protect them, it's simply unrealistic. So whenever we possess and enjoy these kinds of wealth, you should also enjoy them directly without attachment in the process. And once you lose them or they leave you, there's no need to be especially sad. This is the effect of studying Mahayana Buddhism and the teachings on impermanence. We need to carefully and repeatedly contemplate these principles. I hope that, at least in words, I have explained this to everyone. As for how many people will actually reflect on this, I'm not entirely sure. But I also hope that each of these principles is important for us. We must, in our daily activities, whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, open this Dharma text and reflect on it earnestly. When we studied the preliminary practices, we were also very diligent. It wasn't just for a day or two, we truly practiced for a long time. In the end, regarding the concepts of impermanence, precious human life, and many other principles, we did gain some firm understanding. To put it bluntly, you could say it like this: it's not a matter of a day or two, nor a year or two. Such understanding definitely cannot arise in a short period of time. But over the long term, things will definitely get better year after year. At a certain point, regarding all kinds of worldly fame, status, and wealth, and all these objects of pursuit that people in the world especially crave, for us, we should see them very lightly, and such confidence will arise. Next, it talks about all gatherings must eventually part. All things that come together will ultimately separate. Whether it's in a large marketplace somewhere or at a grand Dharma assembly, even though thousands upon thousands of people gather from all directions, in the end they will all go their separate ways. Therefore, all conditioned phenomena will ultimately separate and disperse. This is simply a natural law of existence, not because you are particularly unlucky or have poor karmic connections and conditions. It is not like that. Actually, I think people in the world generally acknowledge these principles as well. At the very beginning of Luo Guanzhong's epic historical novel, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, it profoundly states, "It is widely said that the great overarching trends of the world, that which has long been united must inevitably divide, and that which has long been divided must ultimately unite." So whether it's the evolution of history as a whole, or the various intricate unions and complex separations between different nations and diverse peoples, these profound situations also vividly illustrate the inherent impermanence of all change. We can readily open the illuminating pages of history and fully understand this fundamental truth. All the numerous countries or various tribes and distinct groups throughout the entire world, such natural phenomena are constantly changing and evolving without end. And here, in a particular and specific place, people from all directions and various walks of life gather together and congregate. Or every time a master holds a grand Dharma assembly, people come from various places. But after a while, will they disperse? Yes, they will. Soon, in 2009, the Vajrasattva Dharma assembly is about to begin. At that time, I believe many of the fourfold assembly of disciples from all over the country will come. When they arrive, everyone gathers together. But after the 8-day Dharma assembly ends, everyone disperses back to their respective places. This is simply a natural law. Many of the fourfold assembly of Dharma friends present here are gathered in this Dharma hall. Everyone studies together. But after a few more years, many people will have disappeared without a trace. Many people will have already left this world. This includes the current Bodhi Society and many others, both online and offline, where there are various ways of gathering and everyone studies together. Many Dharma friends didn't know each other before, but now they gather together to study. A few years later, it will be just like the schools we once attended. When we were in school before, teachers and students were in the same classroom, all studying together. But now all that's left is a memory to reflect on. Apart from that, there will absolutely never be any such collective gathering that exists. So we must understand these principles clearly. In the end, everyone will go their separate ways. Even though right now among us there are teachers and students, masters and servants, as well as benefactors and fields of merit, dharma, friends, brothers, couples, and so on. We may care for each other and live in harmony, but ultimately, no matter what, separation is inevitable. Right now, many teachers and disciples, everyone gets along harmoniously and is unwilling to part. But just as the great masters and eminent monks of the past have said, such times will not last long. Perhaps the teacher also wishes to stay in one place and teach the Dharma to a group of followers for a long time. But this too is impossible. I have read some histories before, such as those about Venerable Kashyapa and Venerable Ananda. The true Dharma of Shakyamuni Buddha was entrusted to them, but the actual time they spent propagating the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings, for some it was 30 years, for others about 40 years. Because whether a human lifespan is 100 years or 70 years, during this time, as a teacher, the period for spreading the Dharma is definitely limited. It is impossible to always propagate the Dharma in one monastery forever. That's not possible. And as disciples, in the presence of a teacher who possesses the qualities of the Dharma, we always wish to keep listening to the Dharma, but there is nothing we can do. We truly did make aspirations in the past, that as long as Guru Rinpoche remained in this world, we would always listen to the Dharma at his feet and never leave. But in the end, our hopes all turned into disappointment. He suddenly manifested impermanence, left us, and departed for a pure land. So we disciples were left in this world like a group of orphans, forced to endure suffering. So I truly believe that we should endeavor to deeply understand the many profound teachings on the nature of impermanence. This includes benefactors, their fields of merit, and even some gurus, as well as our cherished Dharma friends, our beloved brothers, and indeed all family members. Ultimately, everyone, without exception, will inevitably part ways. In ancient times, there was also a profound verse that thoughtfully said, "The deep kindness of parents will eventually end in separation. The strong bond between spouses will also be parted. Life is like birds roosting together in a tree. When the time comes, each will fly off on their own. So, although our parents have shown us great kindness, there will still come a time when they too must leave." Some couples, even if their relationship is very strong, will ultimately part ways as well. The affection between people, or the way we interact with one another, is just like a large, diverse flock of birds spending a peaceful night together in the same vast forest. When the bright morning light comes, each individual bird gracefully flies off to its own distinct place and destination. We are the same, gathered together in one place due to various causes and conditions. However, after a certain period of time, the inevitable force of impermanence will eventually arrive and manifest itself. Just a couple of days ago, I embarked on a journey to revisit a specific place, a location where I had resided even before I commenced my elementary school education. This was a cherished spot where our entire family, many years ago, used to seek refuge and stay during the harsh and prolonged winter months. It was, in essence, a traditional winter encampment belonging to a nomadic herder family, providing them with shelter and sustenance during the colder seasons. After I started elementary school, then middle school, then went to teachers' college and became a monk, I had never been back since. When I went there, I thought I might feel something special about returning. My brother and I, along with a few others, went together. After we arrived, many scenes from over 30 years ago came flooding back to me. Everything started to vividly reappear before my eyes. The entire place itself, surprisingly, hadn't changed much at all, retaining its familiar appearance. However, many of the nearby neighbors, and even more significantly, our own cherished family members, had undergone complete and profound transformations compared to how they were before. It was during that particular time, amidst these observations, that I discovered something quite unexpected there. Some Avalokiteshvara mantras I had carved before I started elementary school. They are still remarkably clear and incredibly vivid even now after all this time. I even carefully brought a few unique and memorable stones back with me from that special place. It's truly a profound and nostalgic experience visiting a place where I used to stay for an extended period just like that and reliving those cherished memories. From the bottom of my heart, I truly feel that all phenomena are impermanent. 30 years from now, I definitely won't be in this world anymore, having completed my journey. There's really no doubt about that. But many people, including some of our Dharma friends, even those who are considered relatively young now, will surely have left this world by then. So sometimes, when it comes to the teaching of impermanence, don't just think of it as a theory. If you only ever talk about the impermanence of all things in theory, repeating it over and over, if every day you just recite all compounded things are impermanent and memorize the four seals well, but never truly reflect on it in your heart, I'm afraid you won't actually practice. Not practicing is a great loss for each of us. Many elderly people in Tibet actually have a pretty good understanding of impermanence. Many of them feel, I will definitely die this year, or I will definitely die next year. They constantly remind themselves that this life is very short. So this year, I must complete this mantra. I must accomplish this virtuous deed. Everyone has this kind of mindset. But some young people, and even some elderly people, don't have this concept. They think, I probably won't die for now. In 20 years, I'll do this or that. That's precisely why cultivating a profound understanding of the inherent impermanence of all things is truly and profoundly important. Indeed, it is extremely important for our well-being and peace of mind. If we were to suddenly encounter the profound reality of death or experience some truly unexpected and significant misfortune, then in that very moment, everything we hold dear will inevitably go its separate ways. None of it is truly fixed, permanent, or eternally enduring. Sudden deaths, unexpected accidents, and so on can happen. Even if we gather many people together, in the end, everyone will choose their own path. This is something we have no choice but to face. That's just the reality. So our happiness, our joy, will inevitably come to an end at some point. Many Dharma friends here hope that things will always be this way, that we can stay in this exceptionally wonderful environment to study and practice. But this may not be realistic either. Before, the poet and philosopher Goethe also said that for any person, no matter who they may be, their happiness will always come to an end and their final day will inevitably arrive. These poets, although they were not Buddhists, nor did they contemplate impermanence according to our Mahayana practices, they still understood that no true happiness can truly last forever. Such a phenomenon is absolutely impossible to sustain. So, the Dharma friends, our cherished family members, and all others with whom we spend our precious days and nights now, at this very moment, in the near future, we will inevitably go our separate ways. So we must never be angry with each other, speak harshly, or constantly argue, let alone let things escalate to physical fights and such. Since we are temporarily gathered together in one place, why should we treat each other this way? When we have such a good karmic connection, why say bad things about others? There is really no need for anger, quarrels, or fighting. Indeed, when everyone is gathered together, it is a wonderful opportunity and we should cherish it. We should remember that we may not be able to stay together for long and will soon part ways. Therefore, in this very brief time, we should respect and love each other and live together in harmony. Just as the Venerable Fadampa said, the impermanence of couples is like travelers at a marketplace. Never use harsh words or quarrel when together. Fadampa also mentioned in his teachings that the relationships within a family, such as between husband and wife, are like people at a crossroads in a marketplace, where guests from all directions gather together. They will part ways very quickly. So when you are together, it is best not to quarrel. If you argue all day long, endlessly, many householders nowadays are also very miserable themselves. Even the people around them are very troubled. Because if their family is quarreling and fighting every day, the neighbors also can't find peace and feel especially miserable. There was once a Dharma teacher who talked about a family's constant arguments. They would argue every day over trivial matters. During their fights, the husband would say, "I'm going to kill you." Then the wife would reply, "Go ahead and kill me now, kill me right now. I truly do not want to continue living anyway, so please just begin the process of killing me." Later, the village leaders, after much deliberation, stated clearly and concisely, "If one of you wants to kill and the other wants to die, then you should just leave as soon as possible. As for the food in your shop, we'll just divide it among ourselves." After that, neither of them wanted to kill or die anymore. In this world, we often find that when families argue, it's rarely over anything truly important. There's really nothing worth fighting about. It's just a small issue, like the husband saying, "Let's cook 2 dishes." The wife says there's no need to cook 2 dishes, 1 is enough. Such a small issue leads to an argument, endless bickering, and a lot of pain. If you understand the impermanent nature of causes and conditions, your family will surely be harmonious. If the family is harmonious, then society as a whole and even the country will be more peaceful. If a person doesn't argue and feels happy inside, you can see it in their eyes, their temperament, and in every way, they're more accommodating to others. If he is especially unhappy, then everyone he comes into contact with, even all of humanity, will also be unhappy. So, those who understand impermanence will definitely cherish the coming together of causes and conditions. Many Dharma friends here, in the process of making aspirations, please, in your classes and groups, do not gossip or talk about right and wrong. Our shared causes and conditions are very brief. This is truly the case. I have been at the Buddhist Academy for so many years, and for personal matters, I have never argued with any Dharma friend. This is something I am still very clear about even now. It was only for some public matters, especially in terms of our management, that I would say something to a few Dharma friends. But in reality, I have never done so for personal matters. When I first came to this academy, we should have understood that these causes and conditions are very precious. No matter who it is, if my perception is not pure, it would be just like Su Dongpo and Chan Master Foyin. I would see all of you as impure filth, as something bad. If my practice is good, then in my eyes, everyone appears as Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So my own cultivation is also related to this. Therefore, everyone should not quarrel and must cherish these causes and conditions. Since we are able to come together here, there must be karmic connections from past lives. We must certainly work together as a community to fulfill and complete this brief karmic connection that we share. I believe this is absolutely necessary and essential. Here, Dongre refers to the name of a specific place. Dangrewa refers to the people from the Dangre region. It's like when I say Northeasterners or something similar. Do not use harsh words or quarrel with Northeasterners. Do not use harsh words or quarrel with people from Gilin. Therefore, when we study and practice the Dharma, we should always keep the teachings of these masters in our hearts. We must constantly contemplate and reflect on them. In this way, our words, actions, and behavior will gradually change. Learning the Dharma is not something that can be accomplished in a single day. It's just like practicing Qigong. You might expect to feel something immediately, but that's not necessarily the case. Gradually, your words, actions, and behavior will come into alignment with the Dharma. Eventually, whether it's seeing through the illusions of the world or having ever-increasing faith in the Guru and the three jewels, these will develop. Now, the next topic is all piles will eventually collapse. Anything that is accumulated or piled up will ultimately fall apart. In the end, it's impossible for anything to exist eternally. It's just like the fundamental law that extremes will inevitably reverse. It's precisely the same underlying principle. All structures and buildings that are meticulously constructed will, over time, eventually crumble, decay, and ultimately collapse into ruin. Whether it was once a prosperous village or a thriving monastery, in times past, there were always virtuous and dedicated people diligently managing and carefully overseeing them. But now, tragically, all that's left is a desolate pile of crumbling ruins, which have unfortunately become unsightly nests for various birds and sparrows. Many former monasteries, once vibrant and bustling, and even some once thriving cities, all of these significant structures have now completely turned into desolate ruins. When we visit the ruins of Nalanda Monastery or the auspicious Fragrant Precepts Monastery, standing at their remains, we can't help but think, oh, once upon a time, countless great sages and panditas gathered here, coming together to discuss and study the Dharma. They made truly indelible and significant contributions to the widespread dissemination of Buddhism, influencing many regions and cultures. But now all that remains is just a pile of ruins. There's absolutely nothing else remaining. This is precisely how the situation is. Here, it also gives a metaphor. For example, during the reign of Emperor Trisong Detsen, it was built by illusionary craftsmen. Moreover, it was the second Buddha of Odhyana, personally consecrated by Guru Rinpoche. The three-story Sami Palace with its precious domes was also completely destroyed by a fire. A single day's fire ultimately reduced everything to ruins. At that time, speaking of all the architecture in Tibet, this Sami monastery is one of the earliest buildings. And it was entirely built through the power of Guru Rinpoche, Khenpo Bodhisattva, and Trisong Detsen. It was a three-story palace constructed by magical emanation. In Chinese, Tibetan, and Indian styles, the three-story palace was built in the styles of three different ethnic groups. But later, it was destroyed by fire, all in a single day. The entire outer structure was destroyed, but the inner walls still remain. They still exist to this day. Of course, there are many different historical accounts. In the past, when Guru Rinpoche often taught some Dzogchen Pith instructions, because His Holiness was one of Guru Padmasambhava's 25 main disciples at that time, Vajra demon subduer, the mighty demon subduing Vajra, it is definitely not Demon Subduer Island. If I manage to get it absolutely right, you're certainly not happy. But if I happen to make even a small mistake, you're all absolutely delighted and quite pleased. You really don't have the best intentions. If I say even one word wrong, everyone gets extremely happy. If I could recite the scriptural sources and speak very well, you would undoubtedly feel profoundly miserable and deeply sad, experiencing a significant sense of despair and sorrow. At that crucial moment, when the Venerable Choje meticulously recalled his numerous past lives, he vividly remembered the sacred and momentous scene of the revered Guru Rinpoche and the compassionate Bodhisattva Vajrasattva jointly performing the solemn and powerful consecration. However, despite such a significant and sacred beginning over the passage of time, everything that was established and consecrated was tragically lost, vanishing without a trace. He would often vividly recount the entire and detailed process of his numerous past lives, while deeply shedding tears of profound sorrow and remembrance. On the surface, it seemed very sorrowful. So indeed, if we look at it from the comprehensive perspective of Tibetan history, this particular building was truly extremely magnificent and grand. However, later it was all completely gone. Especially during the Cultural Revolution, Sami Monastery was almost completely destroyed, with only a few walls remaining. Although it has now been meticulously restored to its former glory, the original grand and impressive architecture is basically all gone, having been lost to time and various events. This is also a manifestation and sign of impermanence. Any tall or high-rise building will eventually collapse and ultimately be destroyed. It is impossible for them to exist eternally or permanently. In the past, when we were studying in middle school or at teachers' college, we all especially liked the song "The Great Wall Will Never Fall" from Huo Yuanjia. Every day, a group of us would go to the classroom and forcefully punch the sturdy classroom walls with our bare fists. Sometimes, in our playful moments, we would carefully fill durable bags with fine sand and then securely hang them within the confines of the classroom. After evening self-study, we would start practicing boxing, singing as we did it. At that time, we really believed that the Great Wall was a structure that would never be destroyed. But later, after learning about impermanence, even the Great Wall, when I went to Beijing to see it, was made entirely of the bricks and tiles from back then. Its quality might actually be worse than that of buildings today. Inside, I saw that many places were already starting to deteriorate. So, indeed, there is no building that is truly indestructible. In the past, people especially envied the World Trade Center in the United States, which had 110 floors. But later, just 2 planes crashed into it and it exploded. It turned into a pile of rubble. So, anywhere in the world, any building, on the surface, it may look like reinforced concrete with a very high grade of cement, and it might seem like it could never be destroyed. But in reality, when impermanence arrives, these things cannot exist forever or remain unchanged. For example, in the long and rich history of the Han regions, there was a magnificent place, often referred to as the so-called Garden of Gardens, which was none other than the old summer palace. Historically, it was a garden where many emperors of different dynasties enjoyed themselves. It was magnificent, but later it too demonstrated impermanence. At first, it was built during the reign of Emperor Kangxi. Then, the esteemed emperors Yongzheng, Qianlong, Jiaqing, Daoguang, and Xianfeng, a total of 6 distinguished emperors, all the rulers of those successive generations, spent their leisurely and enjoyable time there. And with each passing generation, these emperors meticulously worked to make it even more perfect and splendid. Its area was especially vast, including both land and water. The land area is larger than the Forbidden City, and the water area is roughly equivalent to the scope of the Summer Palace. Such a vast and magnificent complex was called by people the Garden of all Gardens. At that time, Emperor Qianlong said, "Among all the magnificent imperial gardens throughout the long and storied dynasties, truly none have ever surpassed the sheer grandeur and breathtaking splendor of this particular one." In the historical past, the profoundly esteemed and celebrated French writer Victor Hugo once eloquently stated, "If all the numerous and impressive cathedrals in our entire country were to be meticulously piled together, they still could not adequately compare in their immense scale and their unparalleled, awe-inspiring splendor to the magnificent architecture of the old summer palace. It was simply incomparable." But later, in 1860, when the Anglo-French Allied forces invaded Beijing, in just one day they first looted all the cultural relics inside, and then, in an instant, everything was completely destroyed. Within just a few days, everything was completely destroyed. Only a few columns remain. Now, aside from these, nothing else is left. So, many buildings in the world that people greatly admire ultimately do not last for an extended period of time. Only the weathered and ancient ruins of the magnificent architecture remain as a testament to what once was. There is also another analogy mentioned here. For example, in Tibet, during the reign of King Songtsen Gampo, just like the victorious palace, which refers to the palace of Indra, the Red Mountain Palace was like Indra's victorious palace. The Red Mountain Palace was located behind the Potala Palace. Back in the time of King Songtsen Gampo, it was a massive structure. But now, not a single tile remains, and even the foundation stones have vanished without a trace. So looking at these grand buildings, it is abundantly clear that all the significant rise and inevitable fall in this transient world is truly and utterly unreliable, offering no lasting security or stability whatsoever. Therefore, sometimes we find that there are indeed many incredibly rare and truly magnificent architectural buildings and structures throughout the entire world. But ultimately, even these grand creations eventually disappear and fade away. Some are discovered by people, while others are never found at all. Even after many years have passed, it is very likely that these become mere myths and legends. Why is that? Because people do not understand the truth about them. In the process of not understanding, people especially judge it and treat it as some ancient legends or folklore. The very famous ancient Greek philosopher Plato specifically discussed the existence of Atlantis in his renowned books Critias and Timaeus. He meticulously elaborated on the detailed existence of Atlantis, describing it as a powerful and advanced civilization that flourished more than 10,000 years ago. Was actually a very complete and truly grand city. It was strategically located precisely where the vast Atlantic Ocean, which is indeed one of the 4 major oceans of the world, is now situated. It was extremely magnificent, and in these books, the description of Atlantis at that time, including its forests and city architecture, streets that were made of 7 precious and exquisite materials, and the various dignified and noble aspects of its people. It was just like a highly advanced and truly civilized metropolis today. People lived and worked in profound peace and deep contentment, and the entire nation was exceptionally prosperous. It vividly described a truly magnificent and splendid land. However, this land profoundly worshipped the powerful dragon god. Much like our current Dharma protectors, they often made offerings to them. But later, the morality of the people in the entire city deteriorated and became corrupt. Their ethics and conduct were improper, which incurred the wrath of the dragon god. Afterwards, disasters like floods, violent winds, and earthquakes occurred. In a single night, everything was submerged into the sea. Because the Dragon King was displeased at that time, everything was flooded into the sea. Apart from the captivating underwater world and the ancient ruins of buildings lying beneath the vast sea, all living beings were completely and utterly gone. It's just a legend beneath the waves of the ocean. At that particular time, the renowned philosopher Plato explicitly stated that his detailed description was absolutely not fabricated or merely made up in any way. Rather, it was a city that truly existed, passed down from generation to generation. In the annals of history, some people assert that this is merely a myth. Conversely, other individuals firmly believe it truly existed. During a period when humanity had not yet sufficiently developed and comprehensive historical records could not adequately document such occurrences, it is indeed plausible that such phenomena and accounts did, in fact, profoundly exist. It should have been in February of this year, 2009. At that time, there was a notable British scientist named Bamford. He utilized a specialized kind of software. Through this, he discovered that there truly are discernible traces on the vast Atlantic seabed, clear indications of ancient cities and architectural ruins where human civilizations once genuinely lived and thrived. So now, many prominent archaeologists and esteemed historians across the entire world, their focused attention has also significantly shifted to some of the most profound and enduring mysteries within the vast tapestry of human history. Why exactly is that the case? Because in the distant past, the remarkable things that the ancient philosopher Plato meticulously described were almost universally considered to be mere legends and fantastical myths, and consequently, they were not truly taken seriously or given proper consideration by the academic community. But now, with the help of some special scientific instruments, it has indeed been detected that there are many cities under the sea where humans once lived. These cities have not yet been completely destroyed by seawater. So these phenomena are also things that humanity is only now beginning to discover. After these discoveries, people have had no choice but to admit that some of the ancient structures, as well as the entire scenes of human survival and eventual extinction. So sometimes there are many things that our naked eyes and discriminating thoughts simply cannot measure. In fact, there are countless magnificent buildings and numerous traces of significant human existence all around us. But after generations have passed, we are simply unable to describe them anymore. Not so very long ago, I also had the opportunity to go and see a rather large and impressive ruin, along with some ancient walls. When I was very young, these walls were still there. Then, among the scattered stones and the gently rising mounds of earth, I carefully discovered many ancient, well-preserved bones and some other intriguing materials. So sometimes truly and deeply contemplating the profound nature of impermanence is very important and insightful. Right now, we are also an integral part of contemporary humanity, sharing in its present experiences and its unfolding future. But what kind of ruins will we leave behind for future generations? We should probably give this some thought ourselves. So I think, for me, contemplating impermanence is something I really enjoy. Everything we do truly serves as a good teacher of impermanence. It is also a wonderful book that reveals the nature of impermanence. Our daily words, actions, and even our mindset can help us understand this from many perspectives. So, what is the point of being so attached to our current cities, homes, and temples, which are like insect nests? What use is there in cherishing and clinging to them so much? Whether it's our own homes or our status and wealth, which are also like insect nests, there's really no need to be especially attached to these things. Oh, my house. I want to start building my house today. For this house, I have to pay in installments. Many people living in cities are truly exhausted. Even those practicing on the mountain spend a long time building houses. They build this year and then again next year. They never really practice their skills. Instead, they just focus solely on building houses and structures. In the end, what's the point? Instead, we should follow in the footsteps of the great masters and eminent monks of the Kagyu lineage. So what did they do? They left their homes behind. Look, you're happy again. I misread a character. They traveled to distant places, lived in caves, and spent their days and nights alongside wild animals. They put aside concerns for food, clothing, and reputation. These truly great masters and eminent monks, they really did leave their hometowns and go to unfamiliar places. They lived in caves, in simple huts, spending their days and nights with wild animals. As for food and clothing, they lived a life of contentment and few desires. They weren't like people nowadays who have such high demands. They didn't insist on wearing luxury brands or eating exotic delicacies. If you live like that, the karma you create in the end is truly frightening. Ultimately, they relied completely on the 4 reliances of the Kadampa tradition. So what are the 4 reliances of the Kadampa? Rely on the Dharma with your mind, rely on poverty in your practice, rely on death in poverty, and rely on the dry ravine in death. These are the 4 reliances in the Kadampa lineage. It means that our minds should wholeheartedly rely on the Dharma. We do not rely on anything else, only on the Dharma. And the Dharma can only be attained by relying on poverty. If you are always surrounded by luxury and extravagance, you may not necessarily attain it in such a life. A simple and modest life is the kind of life in which Dharma practice can succeed. That is why the Dharma relies on poverty. But this doesn't mean that you have to get rid of everything you own. It doesn't mean you have to become completely destitute. That's not the point. It's because wealth poses a significant obstacle to spiritual practice. So poverty relies on death. This kind of poverty doesn't mean that when you first become a monk, you don't need anything at all. Gradually you accumulate more and more, becoming wealthier and wealthier. If in the end you die with great wealth, it means your practice has not been successful. Nowadays, many monastics really haven't achieved this in this regard. All the Kadampa practitioners were like Milarepa. Many of them died in caves, passing away in caves with nothing to worry about. They lived their entire lives this way. Of course, for people living in cities, this might be somewhat difficult to do. But as long as you are not greedy and insatiable, that's already enough. And this kind of death means dying in the mountains and valleys. It doesn't mean dying in the city, nor is it suitable to die in a hospital. So some practitioners, when they know they are about to die, insist on going to some quiet place to pass away. I think if you haven't reached that level of spiritual attainment, it's also fine to die in a monastery. The best is within a monastery. This is how the great masters and eminent monks of the past did it. This includes many great masters in Han Buddhism as well. When they passed away, it was often in a simple hut or in a cave. There are quite a lot of such stories. Just open the biographies of eminent monks and you'll see. For example, after falling ill, they did not enter the city. Of course, for us practitioners today, seeking medical treatment is necessary. But we should also keep in mind that at the time of death, it should be very pure and serene, eternal. For instance, if a monastic maintains pure precepts from the moment of ordination, keeping the precepts pure all along, then at the time of death it is a good beginning and a good end. And for a practitioner, if at the time of death their karmic continuum is not confused, one should live a relatively simple life. To die in a state of great purity is the greatest happiness. At the very beginning, one gives up everything. But in the end, if everything is about the 5 desires, all about wealth, and one dies amidst desires, it is truly tragic. Therefore, for us, all the myriad things of the world do not hold much real meaning. We must definitely follow in the footsteps of the eminent monks and great masters who came before us, their traditions and their teachings. Regularly rely on your own mind and strive to perfect your practice as much as possible. Otherwise, here we sometimes encounter many obstacles. As the Dharma becomes deeper, the obstacles also become heavier. In the end, not achieving realization is quite common. Therefore, we must always pray to the Guru and the 3 jewels. I have always believed this. Pray to the Guru and the 3 jewels, and pray to the Dharma protectors. May my practice always be complete and free from obstacles. May my bodhicitta grow day by day. This is the aspiration to make. May the 3 jewels remember me. May the 3 jewels bless me. This is extremely important. All right, we'll stop here for today.
Om